Yeah, so
So,
I think James is going to join us for our Movies of the Week segment.
Hmm.
And I saw a few in theaters. The first one I'll say is It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Did
Oh,
either of you get a
nice.
chance to see it?
Not yet. No, I've heard it's fantastic though. What'd you think?
So it's starring Tom Hanks, who I thought did a pretty good Fred Rogers role. I didn't have any problem with that. However, I went into the movie a bit misled. I thought it was going to be a Fred Rogers movie, but it turned out to be more of so the character Lloyd is an interviewer or reporter who's and the story is sort of based around him and his personal experience with how Fred Rogers changed his life. It doesn't really focus around Fred Rogers, which is what I was hoping for. So Tom Hanks gives a performance, and the movie sort of starts out where it's almost an episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and he introduces Lloyd, the character, and there's a couple other scenes where Tom Hanks is looking like breaking the fourth wall and looking into the audience while he talks. And those were really memorable, and it was really, really like heartfelt moments. It was really it was strange at first. I was like, oh, he's talking to us, and it felt like you were a part of the show. And if you've ever grown up with the show, it was very personal to me because I loved that show growing up, and Fred Rogers is like a personal hero of mine. So it was interesting to see it as an adult and maybe even almost put myself in that position when I was a child and watching the show and when he would just talk straight to the audience in such a slow, kind of careful manner, just this loving kind of feel. And Tom Hanks really did well with that. But like I said, I wished it was more based around his life. Otherwise, the story it had its funny moments. It was more or less predictable in other points of the story. Um, but if you're looking for a more Fred Rogers story, I would recommend the "Won't You Be My Neighbor" documentary that came out. I want to say it was beginning of this year or was end of last year.
Yeah, it was end of last year if I'm not mistaken, and it is really really good too.
Yeah, yeah, I love that one a lot.
all right, the film that I am going to bring up, I think I actually was chatting with James about this one. It's called Piercing, which
Mhm.
is Nicholas. I don't know how to pronounce Nicholas' last name. I got it's Pesce or Pecky or Pesce. He directed The Tears of My Mother, which I think came out a couple years ago. Awesome black and white dark horror film.
Hmm.
Beautifully done. So when I saw his name attached, I had to see this as soon as possible. Um, it's basically follows the character played by Christopher Abbott. Um, he's at home with his wife, and he just seems frustrated from his daily life. So he gets himself a hotel room, and gets a call girl. Call girl. Um, but before that, he just goes through this monotonous planning. You can tell that he probably has some OCD issues. Um, but the call girl he gets, it's played by Mia. Oh, I can never pronounce Mia's last name. Mia Wasikowska.
Mhm.
Um, she was. I really liked her in Maps to the Stars. Another David Cronenberg reference. Um, but she is very, very mentally disturbed. So it kind of blows all his plans, and it just ensues craziness from there. While watching this and making another reference to Audition, and I think this is why I brought it up when I was speaking to James. I think I told you, James, this would be a great double feature with Her Name Was Krista, because it's not the same themes, but they feel in the same mind state, I should say. But not that it's just dealing with hookers, but just some of the feeling. Um, and I got that audition feeling from this film. And then when I read about it, it's based on a novel written by Ryu Murakami, who is also the source material from Audition. So it's starting to make sense to me because I really got uh, a Takashi Miike feeling from the film. But it's very dark. Um, very beautifully shot, what you would expect with this guy's track record. But it's definitely worth a watch. It's I believe it just came out on Blu-ray. So if you really liked Nicholas's earlier work, check it out. It's a good film.
Cool, very cool.
Did you see any movies in theaters or anything you want to toss into the mix?
Yeah, any new views for you?
I did get a chance to check out the Netflix original My Name Is Dolomite, which absolutely adored. I think Eddie Murphy did a phenomenal job. I was a huge fan of Rudy Ray Moore. I actually I actually attended Rudy's funeral because I didn't realize until he had passed that he had died in my hometown. So I got the opportunity to go to Rudy Ray Moore's funeral. And I think, I literally think everybody did a phenomenal job. It is a really great telling of his life. It's very Ed Wood-esque. I have nothing but praise for the movie. I really enjoyed it.
I saw that last week, and I think I brought up Ed Wood as well. Ed Wood and the Disaster Artist.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I have not heard anybody talk bad about that film.
Oh, everybody's incredible. I mean, the movie, I mean, not just Eddie, but Wesley Snipes is phenomenal in it. I mean, everybody involved just did a really, really amazing job.
Yeah, that's top tier for Netflix originals. They knocked it out the park on that. They did really good. That's done really well, isn't it, Raj?
You steal my line. Yes. I can't say that yet because I didn't see that movie, but yeah, David did review that last week on the show. My Name Is Dolomite. Well, I was hoping you would say maybe that you took your kids to see Frozen 2 by chance.
I've been fortunate that I've been able to avoid it. My daughter, my youngest, was a colossal Frozen fan. So whenever typically there's one movie a year that I get the opportunity to watch so many times that I could quote it, like Frozen 1 year and then Moana and all this. It's like, but I've been very fortunate that she has not mentioned anything. I'm wondering if her mom might have taken her. It's like, okay, thank you. I don't want to do that. But
you managed to skate out of that one.
Exactly.
But you didn't, Raj, did you?
I did not. To be honest, I did want to see where they were going with this because there was a lot of backlash about the whitewashing of the cast and the princesshood and all that business. The soundtrack was just garbage. There was not a catchy song in the mix. The only two male characters, one being a reindeer and the actual man, they're just so one-track minded. It was just there was one song, I think, where they kind of almost did like an 80s music video feel to it, and that was the most entertaining. Other than that, the movie was just very predictable. They ended up. This is a spoiler because I just don't care at this point about this movie. But because I feel like it was because of the whitewashing, they ended up giving these two princesses a half indigenous native background. Suddenly, their mother is from a native tribe. I was like,
Scandinavian?
I was like, BS. Apparently, yeah, the Arendelle is actually Scandinavian, but it's just like, whatever. There is a black character who is a soldier that at one point they meet, and he asked, because he's been trapped somewhere for 30-odd years, he says, oh, is so-and-so still there? And is she married? And the princess replies, she's like, oh, yes, no, she's not married. And he's like, oh, there's some hope. Well, at the end of the movie, when he gets back, guess what? She's black. I was like, oh, good. I'm so glad the one black character found the other black character. Now, who else would they marry if they just didn't have each other? It's like, goodness gracious, people. Like, Disney had a chance to create this interracial relationship. And no, not good enough. Got to do it, this crooked-ass way.
Right.
But it was, Olaf, I would say, carried the movie and the most laughs. But it was a crappy sequel. It was not good.
Disney's pretty much known for doing crappy sequels. I don't quite. I mean, I guess business-wise it makes sense, but has there ever been a sequel that has been worthy?
I mean, I think all their money and focus is probably on what phase is this? Phase 4 or 5 of Marvel coming up. So yeah, I don't know. I can't even
and if
consider.
you think about it, on the princess films, which I have a daughter and I've seen them way too much more than I ever would like to admit, but also when they usually did the sequels of the princess films, they were always straight to video.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They don't usually make them theatrical, so they're really trying to push all that money out of Frozen.
Yeah, I think there was a Little Mermaid 2 that went straight to DVD or something.
Oh yeah,
That's the last one I remember. That was a sequel.
Mhm.
freaking terrible.
Save us, David, with your next pick.
No, I'm gonna go into my most upsetting film or the biggest disappointment of the year, which you're gonna disagree with me on. But I finally got to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh no!
And Quentin Tarantino's worst film, by far.
Oh no!
By far his worst film. It's just a meandering, self-indulgent masturbation fest.
Are you going to be helping me, or are you siding with David on this?
I purposely avoided Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and the reason for that is that in the 90s, with both Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, both of those, in my opinion, are two of the best American films ever made. I absolutely adore both of them. I just truly have not enjoyed a Tarantino film since. I didn't care for the Kill Bill series. I didn't care for... my problem with the Kill Bill series was that I had seen all the films that he ripped off. So it's like I didn't really get into that. I actually, shockingly enough, really did enjoy... God, what was it? The Hateful Eight.
I like that one too.
But I couldn't figure out why, because I'm not typically a fan of Westerns. Well, then a friend of mine was like, well, of course you like Hateful Eight. All it is a Western version of Clue, and you love Clue. I'm like, oh, makes sense. Yeah, my problem is, I think, I don't know, I just have not gotten into any of his stuff recently. Now, another thing that turned me off about, what was it? Another thing that turned me off about this particular one, Once Upon a Time, was, and again, call me a purist, but the whole Bruce Lee scene just really came.
That was hard to watch.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, God love him. I mean, he's making huge bank, and he's definitely continuing to make movies. But I don't know. It's been a long time since Pulp Fiction. That's all I'm saying.
Now I'll say this: I'm not a Tarantino hater, and I normally enjoy his films. I think he's one of the best American filmmakers. And I've justified a lot of what he does by saying he's almost like a DJ of film.
Right.
A lot of his stuff is derivative, but he's mixing it up in a different way that we haven't seen. So I understand a lot of film purists don't like that. And I'm cool with that. I don't knock them for that, and I totally understand where they're coming from. I do like Kill Bill, even though I know it rips off a bunch of samurai films, and I love samurai films. But just this film, and to tell you the truth, I think this might be one of his most original films. Mm-hmm. His take on it, he's not wearing every single influence on his sleeve like he normally does. I like the ending. That's the best part of the film.
The climax is awesome.
The climax he does really well, but the lead up to it it's just boring, and I feel it's very pretentious, and I don't use that word lightly. I don't use it much at all, but I think it's a very pretentious film. And like you said, to Bruce Lee, we've talked on this podcast before. Bruce Lee is probably one of my favorite celebrities ever.
I love Bruce Lee.
And to do that to Bruce, and everything I've ever read about Bruce Lee, and it's quite a lot, nothing ever says that he's always seemed humble. People always talk well of him. Just to take this an Asian American icon, and he's one of the very few people of color in the film, and just make him look like shit really bothered me.
Yeah,
that
was off-putting for me just in the clips that I saw. And again, I want to reiterate, I kind of sound hypocritical because I just got done talking about how there are little homages in Krista, and now I'm shitting on Tarantino. It's like the real difference, in my opinion, with that is, I guess I don't quite understand the mentality of taking full scenes of things and doing the same thing, and I think in a lot of ways he tends to do that.
Well, you know the Samuel L. Jackson monologue, when he does the Bible passage that's not really a Bible passage in Pulp Fiction, that's all directly lifted from a Sony Chiba film.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Word for word.
There's a really great documentary out that, from what and again, I could be wrong on this, but from what I heard, his people tried to get shut down. It's called "You're Not Fooling Anyone." Oh. And literally is a scene-by-scene comparison of every single shot, line, and reference that he's blatantly taken. You know, there was one in particular. I know a lot of arguments, and again, I've seen both movies, and there's a really it could be argued. So the fact that Reservoir Dogs is a blatant lift of the Ringo Lam film City on Fire. I mean, right? The story is near identical. Now, again, I don't know. It's difficult for me to say because, like I said, I really, truly love Reservoir Dogs, but I've also seen City on Fire, and the argument could be made.
I looked it up just because now I want to see that movie too. It says You're Still Not Fooling Anybody.
Yeah, I believe that's what it's called. I know there's a few clips of it on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm wading through a crap fest on Tarantino now and trying to think, like, well, what did I like about it again? All you guys say, oh, man, Tarantino.
There's a 3-minute clip, actually the follow-up, that they, okay, the original one was called Who Do You Think You're Fooling?
Oh.
And I guess there's a follow-up called You're Still Not Fooling Anyone. And I think I know as a fan of his, I was shocked to see this thing. And it's like, now I haven't seen the entirety of the full length, but just the clips that I saw, it's like, wow.
I'm going to watch that tonight, actually. I'm so intrigued by it. I really liked it, and I liked, DiCaprio in his acting scenes and in his dealing with sobriety, and when he was talking to himself in that trailer, like it was I thought the acting was so good, and Brad Pitt in the limited dialogue I feel that he did have, like, he really held the tension of all the.
I like the dog the best.
The dog is pretty good. I mean, I don't want to like give away a lot, but yeah, the climax.
No, I'm just talking about the dog in general throughout the film. He's in another scene too. I really like.
How much direction do you think that dog really had? Like he's like, "What's my inspiration?"
Tarantino said, "What films do you like?" Hey, do you ever seen Cujo? Just do that. But and I still have a soft spot for Tarantino, even though there's a lot of questionable things about what he's done. But this film, I had high hopes for it, and it fell flat. It just, I think if he would have took the ending and added another scene, which would involve Spawn Ranch, I'm not going to give much away, and maybe cut out a half hour, 45 minutes of the beginning, I think it would have been a much better film. But I just think it was over bloated, and it was just his love letter to the 60s in LA, and we've just seen that so many times.
Right.
I feel like in a few sentences, the movie was about the actor and his stuntman and their friendship throughout through the course of the movie, and their history together. And on top of that, he threw that, hot topic, the controversy of what happened with Sharon Tate. I mean, once you know who she is in the movie, then you're like, oh, they're going to do this? And obviously how that plays out is whatever you want to say about it. But, once she enters the fray or enters the movie, it's, you're waiting for this part, this historical Hollywood history to play out, and how they get intertwined with the story. I liked it. I really enjoyed it. And DiCaprio's role, like, he was so funny, and how Brad Pitt, everyone like it just intertwined together. I loved how he did that. I don't know, like I said, I don't know where he derived certain things or what he copied, but until I find that out, so far I like it.
Yeah, it's probably stolen from Sergio Leone somewhere in there.
Don't ruin all these movies for me, David.
Well, we already talked about how all the westerns that everybody likes is just really a remake of Seven Samurai anyway. So,
Samurais and westerns.
One film this is a film that I'm late to the party on. Everybody knows I'm a big A24 fan, so I'm about almost halfway through their whole filmography, which is it's 100 films or so. So it's a daunting task. But I watched A Prayer Before Dawn, which is a 2017 film. It is based off a real life guy named John Cole, who is an Englishman who was in Thailand as a boxer, Thai boxer. He has a drug problem. He gets arrested and is put into a Thai prison. And if you've ever watched any of those documentaries about prisons overseas in third world countries, this film it just shows all that. It's just he's in this terrible situation, but it's the whole film is shot. Joe Cole, who is Joe Cole is the actor, but the whole film is he's in every frame almost, and it's all shot in various types of close-ups, and it just makes you feel claustrophobic. How he must have felt because he's in these cells, and people are laying on top of each other, literally laying on top of each other because they're so overcrowded. And it's just him trying to find a way to survive. And he gets into Thai boxing in jail as his way to kind of cope with this. But it's done just very beautifully. Billy Moore is the character. Joe Cole. Joe Cole is the actor. I apologize, but he plays Billy Moore, and it's just such a dark, beautiful film. I highly recommend it. If you haven't seen it, watch it. What I really love about this film is Billy Moore, he doesn't know Thai. So he goes into a prison where everybody speaks Thai. There's very little language. There's a language barrier. So we don't know as the audience what the hell is being said. There's no subtitles.
Oh, there's no subs.
There's a couple scenes here or there that have it that are very intricate and very integral to the plot. But for the most part, you're in the shoes of the main character because he doesn't know what these people are saying. So he has people coming at him and bullying him and talking to him, and he has no idea what the hell's going on. So you're confused like him for most of the film because he doesn't know what these people's motives are. He doesn't know what they're saying to him. So I've seen that done slightly before, but I've never seen a whole film where you're kind of lost in a language barrier.
There was one other movie where it was immersive like that. I was like, oh, what's wrong with the copy? And I was looking for subs and to look it up, and I was like, oh, they're not available. And I was like, what? That's so dumb. I want to know what they're saying. But when I actually went through it, I was like, oh, I get it. I was like, wow, that really, because you're obviously feeling the same confusion. You're like, what the hell? I want to know. But you don't know because he doesn't know.
Right. I think I rated this an 8. I was really happy with it.
Okay. Do you know, does Joe Cole have any kind of fighting background? Did he go into it?
I'm not sure. I don't know if I've ever even seen Joe Cole before. Just looking at it now, he was in Skins, which is another film I really liked. He's in Peaky Blinders, which everybody tells me I should watch. I haven't watched yet. And I guess he was in Green Room. So he's in a lot of A24 films. But I think this might be his first lead role.
Oh, all right. A24 made it in the list.
Oh, always got to.
Making it
That's
through.
not the only. I've probably watched 3 or 4 A24 films this week.
You're worried about not being able to make it through. I think by next week you'll be all set with the top 100 for A24 there.
Well, if I do like 3 a week, I will get through in the next few months.
Well, my last one for new release is Knives Out.
Yeah, I really want to see that one. That's getting some pretty good reviews as well.
I've heard a couple bad reviews, and I was like, "What?" But it features Daniel Craig as a kind of a witty detective with a very outlandish accent. You know, in comparison to the rest of the cast and crew, he has this really strong Southern drawl accent throughout the whole movie, and it's just at first it's so just it hits you in the face, and you're like, why? But then as you go through the movie hearing this, it's very charming. It becomes very charming, and he stands out, and you wait for his lines and his dialogue, and it's so funny, and he's such a quirky character, and he reminds me of like almost like a Columbo, not even a Poirot. I was going to say Poirot, but Poirot didn't really hint towards comedy. This character, Benoit Blanc, almost intentionally just floats towards making jokes and hints at making people uncomfortable with some of his comments and things. But he did it really well. I loved it. And there's that other character from Get Out, which I don't have the cast list out, but I'll pull it up in a second while I'm talking. But yeah, I really liked it. I mean, it's a huge cast list. Michael Shannon comes back in this one. There's Don Johnson. It is a really star-studded cast. Chris Evans, your favorite, David, from all of the Marvel movies that you love.
I love
But it's a whodunit, and I think they did it really well. I was okay. So when I watch mystery movies, I pay way too close attention, sometimes to the point that I ruin movies for myself. So I was able to predict a lot of it, but there was still just enough to where I was like, okay, it still caught me off guard. Chris Evans' character, I think he still got it. I don't know what you hate about this guy, what you don't like about him. I guess you just keep seeing him as Captain America for the rest of his life now. But he did really well. I enjoyed his acting. There was a lot of humor with this very white entitled family and their rich livelihood that is in danger, and that's told in very early in the story. But Don Johnson, really funny role. Michael Shannon, finally, after I saw him in The Current War, which actually was not a current movie, and actually I was told by David that The Current War actually came out earlier and was delayed to this year. So the not so current war featuring Michael Shannon, a very one-tone Michael Shannon, which I wasn't thrilled about. He was much better in this movie. I really liked him better in this one. Yeah, it was really good. I highly recommend this movie. I was tempted to push this to a 9, but I left it at around an 8 out of 10. I was more comfortable with an 8, but Daniel Craig really, he carried it, and it was a lot of fun. It's been a long time since I've seen a whodunit. Oh, and you said you love Clue, James.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think you should definitely check out Knives Out. Like, it was a lot of fun.
I can't wait. Definitely, everything that I've read of it has been very positive, and the previews look good. So I definitely want to check it out.
Yeah, it was. I think even in the trailer, I think it was in the trailer where they were like follow the clues and try to solve the mystery sort of thing. They definitely did drop in stuff. It wasn't like blatantly obvious, but like in dialogue in here and there was ways to figure it out. Now that I look back and say like, oh yeah, I guess I could have saw that, but not entirely. So they did it well.
Isn't everybody's favorite mom Toni Collette in it as well?
Yeah, she doesn't play the. Yeah, she is a mother. Yes, that's true.
No, I'm just making a reference to Hereditary.
Hereditary, yeah. What company was that? A24?
Hereditary, yes, it's A24. We need to get a sponsorship from those guys.
God dang it! I wish.
Hey, you can knock them, but those guys, they're putting out some of the best films in the world right now. So,
Strangely, they keep coming right back around into my life, thanks to you, David. Were you going to say something, James? I heard.
No, I was just amused by you two. So.
Hey, have you seen a bad A24 film yet?
I don't want to be. I'm going to incriminate myself, so I'm going to pass on that question. I'm sorry. I didn't like Hereditary, and I absolutely fucking hated Midsommar. I hate to say
Really?
it.
Ooh, finally someone who said something bad about Midsummer.
I gave it the benefit of the doubt. I really wanted to like it. I liked the subject matter. Personally, I thought it was better done with The Sacrament. I don't know if you've seen that or not. I just...
Is that, who made that? Who made
Sounds
Sacrament?
familiar.
Ty West...
It was Ty. I get those guys mixed up sometimes.
My problem with that was, if you're going to do a story of the Jim Jones cult, do a story about the Jim Jones cult. Don't make it current day. My problem with Midsommar is the same problem that I had with Hereditary. It just drugged so much, and I couldn't get into it. I really wanted to. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Midsummer, I didn't feel that Midsummer was all that original. Like I really feel like I saw a lot of it coming, and even if I didn't see all of it coming, the majority that I did see coming, I was just like, okay, what else? Like, was there something else? And I was like, it was just let down for me.
So I don't know. I couldn't get into it. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't cost you your sponsorship.
Oh, no. I liked differing opinions. Midsummer is probably my third favorite film of the year. Hereditary, I think, is brilliant. I think Robert Eggers, that guy, is brilliant as well. But even some of the, I love The Lobster, Moonlight. They have so many. I actually watched one this week that I didn't like, which is Under the Skin, which I put that I didn't like that in the A24 group I'm in, and you would have thought that I went to a Jesus group and told them that Satan rules the world, but but Under the Skin I didn't like. And the art fan films, the art house film fans, they love that movie for some reason. But
I couldn't finish that movie. I think I mentioned in the comments, I was like, that movie was just slightly out there, and I was like, I don't get it. And then I had to read about it, and I was like, oh, okay, I see it. But I wish that it felt way more easier to understand when I first saw it. I got lost between the literal and the metaphorical sense of what they were trying to depict, and I was like, I don't get it.
It was just boring to me.
It's very, very quiet scenes, I remember.
I think
and
most
just
people
the
watch
darkness.
because Scarlett Johansson's naked. I think that's really about 90% of it.
The fact that she's naked in there and I didn't like it, it worries me on one side, and then the other side is just like, you know what? Maybe I'm better than that, ScarJo. You don't know me. You can't just sell tickets based on your boobs anymore. All right,
Well,
gotta have some talent.
I did rewatch The Lobster this week, which is I love that film.
I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I really genuinely enjoyed that one.
Lanthimos, I think that guy is brilliant. The one that really Moonlight, I watched that for the first time this week. Just reading the synopsis, I didn't think it was something I'd be totally into, and the fact that it won the Oscar, I'm like, oh, it's probably crap because it won the Oscar. But I was blown away. I thought Moonlight was absolutely brilliant.
I still need to sit down with that, definitely.
It's probably the only film since There Will Be Blood that I think truly deserves a Best Motion Picture, at least for studio wise. But that was really great. I'm going to touch on one more film, and another one that I really disliked, and I was going into this with high hopes. The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then Bigfoot.
I heard it's just dull. A great title, but I heard nothing happens in it.
Yeah, that's what it. I went in not knowing anything, and I was thinking this title, this has got to be, and it has Sam Elliott. I'm like, this has got to be
Does Sam
amazing.
does Sam Elliott talk, or does he narrate all of his scenes?
No, he talks, and it probably would have been better if he narrated it. And it looks like he even trimmed that awesome mustache down a little bit for the role.
That's sacrilege.
That's gonna be sucked then, guaranteed. You can't do that.
Oh.
But I was like, okay, I didn't know much about it. I've known that it's gotten semi positive reviews, and I thought it was going to be maybe a little bigger budget for like a B type movie, because that title is like B movie all day.
Yeah.
But I had to fight to stay awake. There was just nothing compelling. It was just dull and boring. Even when he killed Hitler, it was boring. When he killed Bigfoot, it was boring. And I guess I'm not giving it away because it's in the fucking title. So,
Exactly.
but I'm like, that's Bigfoot, and like, it's I don't care if I give it away. He's like a secret agent with the Nazis. He's an American who can speak German, and somehow he speaks German enough to pass with all the other fucking Germans, which never happens. But he has like a camera and like a tube, and they're looking at his stuff. He just screws this shit together, and it magically becomes a gun that he shoots Hitler with.
So it's basically Sam Elliott as MacGyver. Is what we're watching. Okay.
Some kind of assassin, yeah.
But really nothing happens, and I don't know why they titled it that. They definitely got some money from the B movie fans, but
well,
I gave it a 3.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
that
I
was
was gonna say, anytime a title has something anti-Nazi or the word Nazi, like it's somebody's favorite. Like there's a special category for all these, the Nazi, the Third Reich returns, all these like movies just sit in there.
the movie was so bad I had to go right back and watch Kung Fury right after it. I had to see some real fucking Hitler killing. I showed the whole family that one this week, and
Kung Fury?
My 14-year-old stepson loved it.
Oh, it's amazing. It's absolutely phenomenal.
And I saw the behind the scenes and the interviews and stuff. Like those guys are just so hilarious.
Yeah, that's what we watched Kung Fury. We were about to watch another film. I forget which was next up, but my wife wanted to go take a shower, so we sat there and watched all the behind the scenes stuff. So we went through the whole thing, waiting for her to come out to watch another film. And oh god, that's a perfect 30-minute film. I don't think it gets much better than that.
And it's just a great time killer. Like just like, oh wow, yeah, like there's no wasteful scene, and any scene you think is just going on too long, it's just packed full of just funness. I don't know how to explain it. Like it's just funny, like laughs. Oh, that's an excellent word for funness. That's exactly what I meant, actually.
But it's not really low budget though.
No. I was actually kind of shocked how much to make.
I'm sorry?
Go, Jay.
I was actually kind of shocked to see how much that actually cost to make. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a ton of production value, but for a 30-minute short, that was pretty pricey.
Yeah, $600,000 is plus whatever. That's just what he got from Kickstarter. $500,000 must have just went for the computer artist.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
he
yeah.
said he worked on it for 2 years or something, and then he just kind of sort of ran into Yorma for the Hitler role.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, that's so cool. And they're working on a more of a full feature, like a sequel or something, they said.
I love the outtakes with Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like doing the announcement that somebody's about to be towed.
Did you see when at the interview at the Comic-Con, he's like, how come nobody's here dressed up as my character? It's like, and I was like, oh, that's so true. Who's gonna come to Comic-Con dressed as Hitler? Like nobody's gonna know the reference. Like, oh, it's from Kung Fury.
Yeah, you can't cosplay Hitler. You're gonna get in a lot of trouble. Oh, but did you have any other films that you saw this week, James?
Let's see here. I did check out let's see. I did check out Shudder's new reboot of Creepshow. Have you guys seen that yet?
Yeah, that they did a good job. I think I've seen them all. The one that I liked the most was the World War II werewolf. I think that was my favorite one. If you saw that one.
Yeah, I did watch all of them. Again, call me a pain in the ass. I didn't care for it. I didn't care for the series. I don't think it really lived up to the Creepshow tradition. And it seemed to me like they were ridiculous. I don't think they had the budget to pull off what they wanted to pull off.
Yeah, they had a very, very low budget.
So the only one that I actually really enjoyed, actually there were two of them that I enjoyed. The one was the All Hallows Eve one with the trick or treaters.
Yeah, that was a good one.
As I'm watching, I was trying to figure out why does this seem so familiar. Well, it was actually there in the 80s. Might have been 80s or 90s. There was like an EC Comics rip-off comic called Twisted Tales, and Bruce Jones, who wrote the episode, it's actually his story from the comic book. So I was familiar with that. It was cool to see them kind of recreate that. And then it didn't fit with the Creepshow motif, but it was just so goddamn bizarre. I enjoyed it. Was the one with the guy in the suitcase? Did you see that one?
Yeah, that's like they're all hit or miss, but I think there's like 3 or maybe 4 of the stories out of 10, maybe
right.
that I thought were pretty good.
Right. Yeah, I was fairly shocked about the budgets, and also I just think the creep looks terrible. I think he looks really genuinely bad.
Yeah, it did look really super cheesy, especially with what's his name, Greg Nicotero? Is that how you pronounce his name?
Well, it looks like they use old molds of whatever they're using on The Walking Dead and just threw it on a mannequin. It was really bad.
Yeah, I think it was fun, and the way I looked at it, it's like, if I get 3 or 4 good stories out of this, I'll be impressed. So I guess that's why I was impressed, because I did like about 3 or 4 of them. But the way that people were talking about it on Facebook, it was like the second coming.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. People are 100% behind it. I mean, like I said, I personally thought the Masters of Horror series years ago was better than this. And I think it fit better with the Creepshow motif than these stories. Most of the thing that I felt worked about the original Creepshow was the fact that in almost every case, it's about somebody getting their just desserts or their up, and none of these stories really had anything to do with that.
No, and I'm a big fan of the original. I like both of the Creepshows. But it's also a nostalgia thing. It's like, if those came out today, would I really be that interested in them? I don't know, but it's definitely, nostalgia always kind of grades film a little differently for most of us. But I speak about Shudder a lot. I'm a fan of what Shudder's doing, and they're also getting into some distros, some films, and making it easy for us to see them. Tigers Are Not Afraid is one of my favorite films of the year, and they kind of brought that to a mass audience.
Yeah, what was it? On the same channel, I finally got to check out, what is it, One Cut of the Dead, if I'm not mistaken?
That's on my top 10 list, too.
God,
that's
David
a
can't stop talking about that.
Film. Yeah, I've never seen that done in that way before, which is why I like it so much. It was like, you start off watching it, and you're like, oh, this is really kind of cheesy. I like the idea of one cut, and then that third act comes in, and you're like, oh, this is brilliant.
Yeah, the third act really sold me. I was really unsure during the first act, but they completely turned it around, and it all made sense in the end, which was great. I had fun with that, and Shudder also has a really great documentary on Larry Cohen called King Cohen that was fantastic as well.
Yeah, that's on my watch list. I've not watched that one yet, but I like Cohen a lot. So I keep on telling my buddy here, Raj, that get Shudder. He'll find a lot of enjoyable stuff. I use it probably almost as much as Netflix.
It's nice.
I am sharing your account, as I recall.
Yeah, I don't think you've watched anything.
Or does it? I have not.
Oh, you're not supposed to say that on air. They'll change my password.
I'm not announcing your username is DGibson29.
What's that?
And that the password is I love cheeseburgers. I don't know. I couldn't think of anything fast. No, but what happened? Do you guys remember? I don't know if they're still doing it. 8 Films to Die For, that whole series.
Yeah, they stopped that a long time ago. They did really well for Lionsgate for a while, but they unfortunately, I think they only had like 2 or 3, maybe 3 runs with that, and then after that, it just kind of dried up.
Oh yeah, because I remember there was like a couple of favorites I had in there. I don't even remember the names. I have to go back and look at them, but yeah, I found a couple movies that I loved in there, and then I was waiting. I was like, where the heck did it just disappeared? And I never saw them again.
They're trying to do something similar on Hulu. So they have a whole series. I forget what it's called, but almost all of them were terrible that I've seen so far.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of them are based around holidays too. So it's like a movie for each holiday, but I haven't seen anything that I could recommend.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Wasn't like a double feature one of them was during last Halloween? It was about, did you see them all? You said?
I've watched a couple of them.
The one about the assassin that ends up going to like a Halloween party and everyone thinks he's just in costume while he's carrying around this dead body in a bag. And everyone's like, awesome costume, man. And this one girl who finds out that he's actually an assassin like falls in love with him there, even though he's like clearly a killer.
Yeah.
That one was mildly okay. I couldn't finish that. It wasn't that great.
We don't get too much good stuff like that. I was a big fan of Masters of Horror. I would like to see them maybe come back with that.
Yeah.
That was such a great show. Just give great directors an hour to make a horror film. But most of that stuff is hit or miss when they try to get those. Let's put out a whole series of horror films.
Right.
And it becomes more of a demand for what? For like, I don't know. Like they just throw more money at it.
It becomes more about content than it does quality, which is a shame.
Yeah, I mean, and it seems like we're getting a lot more horror, but we're getting a lot less of the gore. It seems we're in that era where it's mostly psychological now.
Right. Well, I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, one thing that I have in my favor with Krista is right now there's a resurgence of slow burn horror, which I mean works out in my favor, but a lot of people aren't really a fan of that. So, I mean, with movies like Hereditary and The Witch, and even Midsommar, I mean, realistically, a lot of that stuff is more psychological, which is, again, can be good and bad.
Yeah, we're not getting much. I really liked Bliss, which was kind of a gory one, but it was also art house. Harpoon is a really good one this year. Mm-hmm. It's kind of more of a survival horror, but it's one of those that starts off as kind of a comedy and just kind of goes off the rails. But straight up horror, there hasn't been much that's just been just blown me away this year. But there's been a lot of great psychological and art stuff. But I haven't seen a good gore fest in a while.
Well, James, thank you for coming onto our show, and thanks for sticking around for as long as you did. You didn't need to, but you certainly did, and that was a lot of fun. I'm glad we kept you on and you stayed with us for all the other extra movies and comments, and especially when you chimed in against Midsommar, that was probably the highlight for me. I deeply enjoyed that.
Glad I could help, definitely. And I had a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, James, man. Really appreciate it. And people, when you get a chance to see Her Name Was Krista, check it out. This being James's first film, James, I think you showed a lot of potential, and I hope that you do direct some more. I'd like to see more of your voice.
Absolutely. Definitely. Like I said, at this point, it's all going to be about budgets. So we'll see what happens.
Budget. Who needs budgets?
Who needs money?
Everybody, when you get a chance, look at some of James's work. Go back and see some of his acting work as well.
All right, you've been listening to Coast to Coast Film Reviews. That's our show for the week. And if you liked it, we're going to have something better next week, so please stay tuned. My name is Raj. Have a good night.
This is David. Have a good time of day. Thanks a lot, James, man. That was fun.
So you guys did it, and again, thank you so much. I appreciate it.